Welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space, a space for you to settle in, sit back, relax, and focus a little bit on health, wellness, faith, family, and this crazy thing called life.
This podcast is not a replacement for mental health treatment or professional health care. In case of crisis or emergency, please contact your local healthcare provider or dial 911.
Hey there, and welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a spring bucket list and how to make the most of these next couple of months. If you have been listening for a while, earlier in this season, I did a winter bucket list, and so I thought that what a great time to share with you some spring bucket list ideas. Now, I know that you could easily go to Google yourself and you could hit, spring bucket list ideas, and you'd get a whole slew of those ideas. And you still might after you listen to this, but what I wanted to do was just share with you a couple of ideas that are relatively easy and don't cost a lot of money, but can help to brighten up the home after we've been closed up for the winter, kind of freshen things up a little bit, and can also be included in this idea of self-care, because if you know me personally or professionally, you know that I always say self-care is not selfish, and so we want to embrace that idea. This weekend that I'm recording this on a Monday, this past weekend was absolutely beautiful. The sun was shining, nice cool breeze, beautiful white puffy clouds. It was like picture perfect spring weekend. It got me thinking about the first thing that I typically do for spring is kind of clean up my flower beds. Now, that seems like a chore, I know, to some of you, but the next thing I'm going to tell you, I need number one done before I can do number two. So cleaning up the flower beds, pulling up the weeds that are starting to pop up, move some of the leaves that kind of got stuck there over the winter, just kind of freshening things up. You can do this as a means of self-care because it's you got fresh air, you've got sunshine, you've got some activity outside, but you also know that it's a means to an end, because then bucket list item number two is to go buy some fresh flowers. We have a local Amish nursery near us. We have several of them actually, and there's one in particular that I like to go to. They have tons of flowers and vegetable plants and things like that. And the way that I make this a bucket list item is that I go with a friend. So my neighbor and I, we've done this I guess we've lived in our house for 4 years. So this is the third year in a row that we've done this. We pick a Saturday morning and we grab one of our vehicles and we go over to this nursery, and we're on no time frame, and we just walk and we shop and we talk about what we're going to put down. Part of that first idea of cleaning out the flower beds is kind of taking inventory of what I need. What are my perennials that are going to pop up here soon? So my hostas were kind of budding when I was pulling out some of the debris, leaves and stuff. So I kind of go into this day shopping with my friend knowing what I need to get. Some of it is just not really sure what I'm going to get based on what they have, and they have tons and tons of variety. So certainly cleaning up the outside and then working to brighten up the outside with some fresh flowers, making it a day, girls morning out with my friend, getting that shopping done, and then knowing that I can get those things planted too. I know for some of you, if you have little kids or you have shift work schedules or something like that, it can be a little bit of an ordeal to plan that. So maybe it's a family affair where everybody's helping to clean the flower beds, everybody's helping to plant, and then it seems much more like a chore than it does really any kind of self-care or bucket list thing. So I would encourage you to consider what works best for you and your family. One thing that you can do that doesn't take the whole family and doesn't seem like a chore is to buy yourself flowers. I love my husband. We've been together for 20 years, but the man does not buy flowers, and that's okay. I've known it from the very beginning. And so every now and again, I like to buy myself flowers because it brightens things up. There's just something about having fresh flowers on a table that just livens things up. So one of the things that you might consider to brighten up your home for spring is to buy yourself some flowers. Another thing I like to do for spring is kind of bringing the idea of crafts and doing something for myself, but then also doing something for the environment, we'll say, is to get prepared with my bird feeders. I know we're not doing hummingbird feeders until a little bit closer into the middle of April, but I mean, I've got all kinds of birds chirping around the house now. So, getting the bird feeders ready. Maybe you do some kind of a craft, a spring craft that, making bird feeders. That's a great way to repurpose some, old seeds and stuff like that. Being able to have a craft, have some downtime, some quiet time maybe, but then also create a bird feeder of some kind. Switching gears just a bit, coming into the house, one thing that we have done is that we take our screens out during the winter, so it's hard to just open the windows. Weekends like this past weekend are great weekends to open up the house, kind of let that fresh air circulate through. The pollen is not too crazy thick yet. So maybe you need to put your screens back in so that you can be prepared to open up the house every now and again and just let some fresh air come through. So we're looking at freshening up the outside, freshening up the inside. What about freshening up you, right? We've been here I am in a hoodie, jeans, sweaters. It's time to look at our spring wardrobe. I am not the person who switches out closets. I have one wardrobe. Everything stays in the closet and everything stays in the drawers all year long. Part of that is because even in the summer I get chilly, so while I'm not wearing my sweaters necessarily, I do love a good cardigan over a short sleeve shirt. But I could lighten up or freshen up the wardrobe a little bit, kind of go through things, make sure that nothing needs to be replaced. It's a great time to go thrift shopping if you want to not spend a lot of money, but you want a couple of spring shirts, freshen up the colors and things like that, just to get your wardrobe ready. I kind of push the sweaters aside, make room so they're not so prevalent in my closet anymore, and get ready for the spring. As we shift wardrobes, we're shifting the shoes that we wear. So certainly on my spring bucket list is to get a pedicure. Give my toes some love from the winter when they have been in socks and shoes and boots for months now, and we want to make sure that they're ready for sandals. I had a client actually come in this morning and had some sandals on and had some cute little manicured toes, and I was feeling a little bit jealous. It's on my spring bucket list. Get that pedicure, get my toes ready for some fun shoes. You will probably remember from the winter bucket list we talked about, reading, cozying up with a good book and a blanket and hot cocoa. That's a great wintertime activity. A great springtime activity is maybe it's iced tea or water or lemonade or some other kind of fresh drink. I have like a swing on my front porch that I can sit and read. It's a great time to just soak in the fresh air, sunshine, hearing the birds chirping, and just catch a good book. Springtime's also a really great time to declutter a little bit. Obviously, we all know the idea of the spring clean, but decluttering the house, giving it a fresh clean, having a yard sale or even a neighborhood yard sale so that you can kind of get rid of those things, but then also have a few dollars to go to the thrift store or go to the nursery to buy those flowers, kind of putting all those ideas together. If you are a person who likes to read, maybe you like to read seasonally. I don't always read seasonal books, but sometimes I won't read a Valentine's Day book in the fall, but I certainly would love to do that in January leading into February. So maybe it's time to freshen up your book list if you've already created one for 2024, kind of looking at what books you want to read for the spring, kind of putting it in that seasonal category. There's also some really great things that we can do that you can do any time of the year, but it just feels a little different based on different times of the year. Thinking about, watching the sunset, watching the sun rise, going for nature walks, or we have a nice trail here in our area. You can go for a nice walk. It's really that interesting time of year where it's chilly in the morning and you need a jacket, but by the afternoon it's hot and we don't need a jacket. So finding a good time to go for a nice walk. Because of the way that the sun is rising and setting, you could go for an after dinner walk and see the sunset. I love putting habits together, kind of stacking them in a way that allows you to do multiple things at one time. I think being outside, fresh air, sunshine, movement, all of those things are great. So if I go for a walk, outside, I'm getting fresh air, I'm getting sunshine, I'm getting my movement. And if I go after dinner, I'm helping with my digestion a little bit. We can get into the science of that later. But I'm also potentially going to be able to see the sunset if I'm going after dinner. So stacking those habits together can be a really fun way to knock a few things off that bucket list. We continue to think about ideas to do outside of the home. I don't know about you, but the trees around me are just budding and blooming, and it would be a fun time to drive around. In the fall, we tend to drive around and watch the foliage and the leaves change. Going for a drive, going for a walk, and watching the trees bloom. I was watching the news this morning, and apparently the cherry blossoms in DC were supposed to be blooming at peak this coming weekend, but apparently this weather from this past weekend put them in full bloom, and so they're encouraging everyone to see them this week if you can, because they're pretty much at peak about a week earlier than what they thought. But even looking around your neighborhood or around the area that you live, we've got some beautiful trees that are blooming here by the office. Sometimes it's just about being mindful. It's about looking around and seeing what you can see rather than just going through your day, day by day. Maybe you want to plant your own seeds. You want to plant your own flowers. You want to plant your own vegetables or herbs of some kind so that you can watch your own garden grow. That's a great idea too, just being outside, fresh air. I love the idea of having a little garden. I do not have the greenest of thumbs, but when I have those little tomatoes budding off that tomato plant, it's super fun. For us this year, I've successfully had tomato plants 2 years in a row. So this year I'm going to kick it up a notch and I'm going to add some cucumbers or some peppers of some kind, I think, because it's so fun just to see them budding off the little bush and then being able to bring them in and put my little cherry tomatoes onto my salad or cut my tomato for a sandwich or whatever it is. Kind of a little bit all over the place with our ideas. I want to encourage you to consider what you have available to you in your area. Some of you are listening maybe in areas that have lots of activities and botanical gardens or butterfly gardens or nature trails and things like that. We certainly do have lots of options here where I live. You just have to think outside of the box. Sometimes it's as simple as walking out of your front door to be able to watch some birds, and of course the squirrels are always running about, and just taking in the sights and the sounds of just a typical day. But you might also consider going to an aviary or a butterfly garden or some other place that kind of highlights the springtime action of animals. Having a picnic, making a nice a nice lunch or dinner and then going and having a picnic, so that again, sunshine, fresh air, time with family and friends, having a picnic, watching some birds. We're stacking it all together, right? Visiting local, state, national parks, especially if there's a particular national park that is super appealing during this time of the year. Obviously, you wouldn't want to go to the north because it's going to be pretty chilly still in the north, the Midwest, in the North Midwest, and also the Northeast. But considering what you might be able to do, things that you can do right in your own front yard. I already talked about like making some bird feeders or having a picnic, reading a book. How about flying a kite? Especially if you have kiddos. My kids loved to fly kites when they were little. Some of our local parks have those big areas where the kids can play sports, and if there's not a sporting event happening, Sundays are great days for those. There's typically not too many sporting events happening at those parks. You can go and you can have the kids run around and fly a kite. Here's two birds with one stone. Let those kids run, 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 run while they're trying to fly that kite, and then hopefully they'll be a little bit tired for the afternoon, so you can have more of a chill, laid back afternoon, and then maybe you can sit outside on your porch and read your book. See? Habit stacking. I just saw this weekend here in our area that the local farmers market is opening back up. I think it's in 2 weekends. Maybe it's next weekend, but maybe in 2 weekends. Great time to go to the local farmers market, get seasonal fruits and vegetables. I love to support the local farmers rather than going to the big grocery stores. Just love to be able to support them and get some good fruits and vegetables for my family as well. Obviously, there's tons of other things that you can do outside that you might consider as part of your bucket list. going to the zoo, miniature golf, going to different parks or amusement parks or theme parks or whatever it happens to be. But all those things cost a lot of money. And taking food from your house, making a picnic, going outside, watching the birds, reading a book you already have, those are all things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money. One final thing I want to kind of pitch to you is the idea of some seasonal foods that you might consider. We tend to be pretty routine in terms of the things that we eat. Certain foods, soups come out in the fall and in the winter, and they tend to go away in the spring and in the summer. Pies are really good in the fall and the winter, and then maybe we're more onto fruit cakes and things like, not fruit cake, but strawberry shortcake type things for the spring. So maybe it's time to make some fresh baked goods, more seasonal. Obviously, we've got Easter coming up, so there's lots of things that are around the Easter holiday that people tend to do. Maybe you've opened the windows and you're going to have breakfast in bed. Maybe you're going to try some options for different cuisine. Maybe you've been really wanting to try a different culture of food. My son told me the other day that he went with a friend to a Thai restaurant, and I honestly don't know that I've ever had Thai food. So could certainly be something that when we're driving around looking at all of the flowering trees, we could try a different place for food. Pinterest and Google are really great options for looking at new recipes, using seasonal fruits and vegetables, looking at where you might be able to pick some fresh strawberries or other fruits that are local to your area, and just really indulging and being mindful of this time of year. What is blooming and what is budding, what is fresh and new. Certainly we live in a culture that if we want strawberries, we just go to the store and we buy strawberries, but there's just something about getting them fresh from the garden or fresh from the strawberry farm that is just different and can be quite a fun experience to go pick your own strawberries and then make your own dessert or just eat the strawberries, and certainly be fun. I would love to hear what some of your options and ideas are for a seasonal bucket list. Obviously there's lots of things we can do outside and kind of freshening up the house outside and inside, freshening up our wardrobes, freshening up it's a season of new beginning, right? We look at the trees are budding. We look at, this is the time where birds are laying eggs and new baby animals are coming. I'm excited to see some baby deer in our backyard here soon, and hopefully some baby turkeys as well, because it's a time of fresh and of new. So imagine and think about what might you do that could be a part of that kind of freshening and livening up the outside of your home, the inside of your home, but also for yourself. What can you freshen up and liven up for yourself to take advantage of opportunities for self-care and taking advantage of this new time of year? I'd love to hear your ideas for self-care, and I'd love for you to tag us in those options and those ideas, because we're always about self-care here at Hope and Healing, and it's one of my mantras: self-care is not selfish. Feel free to send us a DM, or you can always email me, Jennifer@hopehealingtherapy.com. Look forward to hearing what you're doing for your spring bucket list and how you are taking care of yourself this spring. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for listening.